Hello everyone, Professor Toybox here. I've got Obi-Wan Kenobi with me, and we're back in my Return to Atlantis toy box, working on this randomly generated dungeon adventure. Last time we had built this barrier here, which requires you to throw your sidekick through this door to turn it off. And I had commented that I hadn't done much with sidekicks yet, which is unfortunate because I wanted them to be more involved in your adventure. So today we're going to focus exclusively on sidekicks and some of the different things involved with them when you're setting up an adventure like this. And so the first thing I want to look at today is if we head over here to this little plateau. One of the things we can do with the sidekick obviously is drop a treasure chest, loot chest. This is in the Creativitoys drawer. And one of the things you're going to note when you come in here and you try to configure the loot is that there's no options in here for food for the sidekicks. When you're playing Toy Box Takeover, for example, you can find food in different places and you use that to heal your sidekick and power them up and level them up. There's no option for that in here. So if you want food for your sidekick, you're going to have to grow some ahead of time, and you can do that in the sidekick portal from the Toy Box Hub, or if you've completed the missions in there and you've been awarded the farming plot, you can build your own farming toy box and harvest food ahead of time. So before you begin one of your custom adventures with a sidekick, you're going to want to have some food stockpiled. But in the loot chest, we can put in sidekick gear, and there's different hats, there's different weapons, some different things that you can do. Let's see, there's hats here, there's some weapons, and so there's various things that you can do. I'm going to probably put, I've used some trainee weapons and hats in earlier toy boxes, so we'll give them a little bit more powerful weapon in this one. And as you're going through your adventure, you want to provide some loot that levels up with them, and that's always a good idea. You don't want to start them off with super powerful weapons unless you're going to start your adventure with a very leveled up sidekick, because a lot of the more advanced gear has minimum stats required to use those pieces of equipment, and you won't be able to do that on sidekicks that haven't been leveled up. So that's one of the ways we can provide some gear for our sidekick. Another way that you can do that, and you may be familiar with this if you've seen it in Brave Forest Siege, is you can set up a sidekick tree or other place that will award some loot when you throw your sidekick into it. So we'll set one up over here, for example. And if we come into the properties for this, this is similar to the kiln door that we looked at last time. I wouldn't want to remove my sidekick on entry. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off for testing. When I'm all done, I'll probably turn that on. Detection level is fine. Last time with the kiln door, we had set this all the way up to 10, which meant that we always got back a normal response because explosive response was set to 0. But if we leave this set at 5 and we set this at 5, we have a 50-50 chance of having something good happening or something bad happening. And you saw this if you played Brave Forest Siege. Sometimes an enemy would spawn, sometimes something more helpful. And so to show you how to set that up, because that's kind of a neat mechanic, we're going to come over here and drop a locator where we would want our prize to be. And I'm going to go ahead and spin this around so that it's facing the door. And there's two different things we can hook up to that locator. One would be an object generator. This would be for the good response. So if we connect this to the locator, and another might be an enemy generator. And I've never used this one. We could probably use that, but since I'm more familiar with the enemy wave generator, I think I'm just going to throw that down. So in here we can set the locator to here. There we go. And so now, new logic connection. When the normal response is returned, we can come over to the object generator, and we can drop packs and tools, items, and we can drop like a special move capsule, which could be helpful. If we get the explosive response, we can invoke the enemy generator. And in here we can have this, configure the wave. We can put in, we'll do one enemy. And we don't want to do something too nasty, but since we're near the lava, we might want to use this flying enemy. One of the things I noticed with the enemies is that if you, especially the ground enemies, is if you drop them on the ground near lava and you're running around, they're pretty stupid, and they'll actually run into the lava, which isn't a good thing. So the properties for this, we don't need to worry about a random locator. We'll turn off the generation delay, and we don't necessarily need to hide the generation effects. So now, if we throw our sidekick through that door, we've got a 50-50 chance of something good happening or something bad happening. And for right now, I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. We'll test these things out here when we're all done. So we'll move these out of the way. Okay, so that's it for the sidekick gear. A couple of different ways to do it. You can use a sidekick door to award it. You can use a loot chest to award it. And if you don't like the one from Toy Box Takeover, under gameplay toys, there's a couple of them from the Brave Forest Siege or Escape the Kiln. So, moving onward, I'll show you what I've done on my level here since then and some of the puzzles we're going to set up. So once you deactivate this barrier and you run over into this area, and I'll go ahead and do that because I want to show you something I did last time as a change. So we'll start here with Obi-Wan, and we'll go ahead and add in our sidekick. So last time I had noticed when I had tested this that you throw your sidekick across, he comes out the door and then walks into the lava and dies. So I've since fixed that, so we can actually throw him in the door. And now when he comes out, I've got a replayer dropping some grates down in front of it. So now when he runs back over to me, he doesn't die. So that's a very good thing. So now we can continue on around the corner. And if we were to do that, we'd run through this trigger area, which is going to spawn some enemies over here, which I don't really want to fight at this point in time. When we test the level out here a little bit later in this series, you'll get to see this in action. There's a couple of rather large enemies that can spawn in here. That trigger area back there is connected to a randomizer, which is connected to several different enemy generators, so there's some different combinations of enemies that are possible through here. But I dropped a little TNT shack here, so you can throw your sidekick through the door and get a barrel of TNT, which will help you to battle some of the bigger guys. This little TNT shack is also useful for defeating this cannon that's up here. So when you run up this ramp, that cannon is going to be a problem. And you can use that little barrel of explosives that you get to help you destroy this cannon. When you proceed along, you pass through this trigger area, which will invoke our enemy generator over here, which will produce some flying enemies. Also got a spinner set up on this end. So that explosive shack is another thing that you can use the sidekick for, is to get you some explosives that you can use. And then running through this trigger area over here will invoke some enemies on this end. And I set up a cannon over here, and this is another item that's available in the gameplay drawer for your sidekicks. And as you're running down this narrow area and into this area, this cannon's going to start shooting at you. But you can come along behind it, throw your sidekick through that door, and he'll take over the cannon, which will help you as you fight enemies in this area. Another puzzle idea that I kind of came up with is we have a sidekick cannon, which didn't seem all that useful to me initially. This is another item in the gameplay toys drawer. You can come in here and set the distance that you want to launch your sidekick, and you can send him pretty far. 25 is the default. But the problem is, once you launch him and he lands, he immediately comes back over and stands next to you. He kind of teleports over. So there didn't really seem to be a whole lot of ways I can do something with that. But a couple of different things I thought of. So I set up another area over here that's similar to the fire hazard that we set up over there last time. I've got an effects generator connected to that. This is also connected to my kill switch like before, so if I try to run through this while the fire is going, I'm going to die. But I've set up a little piece of machinery here with a trigger area, and the sidekick will actually land right here next to this. So one of the things I can do with this trigger area is when it's entered by AI friend, which would be the sidekick, I can come over and turn off the flames. And I can also come over here and deactivate this trigger area so that I don't die when I run through it. And so now what we have, a little sidekick will pop up over here if I run around a little bit, I think. Come on, sidekick, catch up to me. There he is. And I got this button here just to launch this. This will be connected to another trigger area later on, perhaps the same one that generates the enemies below. So now if I come over here and grab my sidekick, see, if I run up that ramp and try to climb up there, there's no way to get across that barrier, but I can come over here and throw my sidekick in. He shoots over there to the equipment and turns it off. So that's one thing that you can do. He still comes back fairly quick. Another thing, which didn't really work out with the architecture here, is that you can actually set up under the Creativa toys. We can come over here to the end of this, to the marching orders. Oops, I think I passed it. There we go. And you can set up a little marching order region over here so that when the sidekick gets launched, you can set the distance on the cannon to put him inside this marching orders area, and then he'll start walking in the direction that's pointing. And he seems to walk about 7 or 8 blocks or so. And so you can use that and set up a trigger area that he'll walk towards, and then when he walks into that, if there's a piece of equipment or a computer console there, it'll look like he's marching forward and turning that off. So that's another idea that you can use with that sidekick cannon. So there's a whole bunch of different sidekick possibilities, and I hope this gives you a few little ideas. And just to make this interesting, I'm going to come over here, and we'll go ahead and test out this sidekick door and this little area, just to kind of close off this video with something kind of fun. Okay, before we test this, I made just a really quick change. I actually played through this once already and had some bugs, so I fixed those. I moved the locator up here. When I had it down on the ground level, the sky enemy and the special capsule were kind of down inside the ground, so that didn't really work out too well. So I raised that up a little bit, and also moved a few of my locators over here to bring them a little bit closer to this cannon. And so we're going to go ahead and give this a try and see how this goes as we close out this video. Just for something fun to do, we'll run through this. So we'll go ahead and first thing we'll do is throw our sidekick in here. Let's see what we get. Will we get something good? Will we get an enemy? Hey, we got a spark capsule. Cool. And some of the sparks show up over that lava. If I have a power disc on there that'll let me collect those, that might be useful, because that'll increase my distance. But other than that, I might want to tweak the top of this here to move that stump back a little bit. Okay, we'll go ahead and pick up our sidekick. I've noticed they're just as stupid as the enemies, and if you let them run loose near the lava or other hazards, they'll just walk right over it and die. So now, ran through that trigger area. That should spawn some enemies. This cannon's going to start shooting at us. Take it over, little sidekick. And there's the sidekick. Let him do his job. Come on. I'll lure him over here for you. Wow. That was cool. Oh, man. That's pretty cool. I'll just stand around and collect all the stuff.
How rude!
Whoa! Whoa! Oh man, what a recovery! Wow!
I'm afraid you're no match for my skills.
Oh, he's attacking the sidekick. Get him, sidekick. Get him. Now that's the way to fight those guys. If you don't have the Hulk, that's the way to do it. I like that. Okay, I think that's everybody. So now we get over here far enough, the little sidekick comes out. Now we got to be careful not to run back near that cannon, because it'll start shooting at me again. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel or sign up for my blog to see what we do next in this series. You can find logic diagrams and build tips on my blog to help with the different projects that we make. There's not too much more left to go on level 3, so we'll be testing this out soon and running through it. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.